You know those makeup products that you end up buying because everyone's raving about them, or they just sound really good on paper and they just end up sitting in your drawer? Well, today we're going to be bringing those products back out because I'm going to give them a second chance. Maybe I judged them a bit too quickly. Holy crap. Or maybe I was right all along. It's gross. Let's do a full face of makeup I regret buying to see if the regret is real. So in front of me, I have 7 products, but just to preface this video, I'm going to try to do my makeup as best as I can just so that I can give these products a fair chance. So before we put any of these products on my face, I am going to be adding a little bit of primer on, and I'm using my Denona Blurring Balm Powder. And prior to filming, I did do my skincare with a bit of milky toner and a sunscreen. Let's get into it with foundation, and the first product that we have is the Fenty Beauty Soft Lit Naturally Luminous Longwear Foundation in both 120 and 130. While the formula is amazing, I just don't love the fact that I have to mix 2 different colors to get my perfect shade when there are other brands and other shades that I can conveniently reach for. I have 2 different colors on the back of my hand. Ooh, it's dripping. And I have to obviously mix it, and then I will apply it on my face. I know it looks like a lot, but I am gonna go in with a sponge and remove some of the product with that sponge. And I remember when Fenty first came out, they launched with, I think it was 50 different shades of foundation. And their main selling point was that everyone was gonna find their most perfect shade. And they were filling a much needed gap in the makeup retail space. But unfortunately for me, I can't say that I found my perfect shade. I've tried, obviously, this foundation, the Soft Lit Luminous Foundation. I've also tried their foundation stick. I've also tried their skin tint in the squeezy bottle, and none of those options were a perfect shade match for me. And luckily, there are some fair olive foundation options that are readily available at Sephora. So the one that I normally reach for on a regular basis is the Haus Labs Triclone Skintech Foundation in the shade 030 Fair Golden. And if you're looking for a different brand but in a similar color, then the Natasha Denona Hyglam Foundation in the shade Y1 is also a really great option for fair olives. So these 2 foundations are what I normally reach for because they are a perfect shade match for me, and I don't have to do any mixing with either of them. Okay, I'm just adding a little bit more. And it makes me sad that I don't love this product because I do really like the formula and it sits beautifully on the skin. I just wish they had a better shade option for me. And I have tried to explore some of the lighter shades at Sephora, but they end up being really pink on me. And I'm gonna go in with a sponge to smooth out the texture and to also evenly distribute the product across my face while soaking up the extra product that is sitting on my skin. And while I don't regret this purchase per se, like, again, this formula is really nice. I do like it quite a bit. I just don't want to settle for 2 different foundations just to get my perfect shade because I find that there are other options out there that I can turn to that I only need 1 of. And obviously, when I'm pressed for time, I'm not going to reach for 2 foundations and mix them together. I'm going to reach for a more convenient product. But for those of you who have found your perfect shade in this foundation, you have a fantastic product in your collection. So going forward with future foundation purchases, I'm going to try very hard not to buy 2 shades, especially in a high-end foundation product. If it's drugstore, that's a different story because the upfront investment isn't as big of a hit as buying 2 foundations from Sephora. Like if you're buying 2 foundations from Sephora, it's like guaranteed to be $100 or more, but at the drugstore, it's gonna be around, depending on the brand, $30 to $50. So for drugstore foundations, I'm okay with getting 2 different shades, but for high end, because testers are readily available, I just don't wanna settle for 2 different shades again. Okay, so for concealer and contour, I'm going to be using my next product, which is the Makeup Forever HD Skin Face Essentials palette in the light to medium version. I really appreciate that the packaging on the outside reflects whatever's on the inside. I think that's really thoughtful of them. So when I have purchased this product, I had intentions of using this as a travel-friendly makeup product to help eliminate some of the other makeup products that I didn't want to carry in my makeup bag, or to fix my makeup along the way during application. In this palette, I'm going to use this light shade as concealer. And I'm going to pat this on the areas that I just need a tiny bit more coverage and a tiny bit more lightness. And then I'm also gonna use this grayish color right here as my contour. Now that I have the lighter shade applied onto my face, I am gonna take a brush to help blend it out. And then later I am gonna go in with a sponge to help really melt it into my skin. So here's the deal. I am a fair olive girl, so some of the darker mid-tone shades definitely do pull a little bit more orangey on my skin. Another thing is that I don't love using cream blush products. I gravitate towards powder blushes because I'm a huge fan of powders. And there are two cream highlight shades in this palette, but I'm not a huge fan of cream highlights either. I much prefer a powder because highlighters are typically used at the end of a makeup routine. So if you're applying cream on top of a set base, it's just a disaster waiting to happen. And I guess my last point is that if you are going to be mixing a custom shade either for your complexion or for blush, and you run out, you do have to mix that custom color again, but there is a lot of room for error if you're not using the right proportions. Okay, now I'm gonna go in with a sponge and smooth everything out. Now that I have the concealer shade applied, I am now going to be using the contour shade, so this shade right here, to contour my face. And I'm just gonna put the excess on the back of my hand. And then I'm just going to dab the product onto my face. And then I'll blend it out with a brush. I'm going to use my foundation brush that I used earlier to help blend out this contour. And even though the shade in the pan looks a little bit grayish, this does pull a little bit more on the rosier end. I'm just gonna apply a tiny bit more. I will admit that this product blends out really well. Like, look at that. It blended out so quickly. Okay, so now I'm just gonna apply this on to my forehead. And if I am using a cream contour product, there are other products that I would be reaching for. Typically, I would be reaching for CoverGirl True Blend Skin Enhancer Contour Balm in Defined. And if you're looking for something that's available at Sephora, I have the Haus Labs Precision Sculpt Shaping Balm in both Chisel and Profile. These products would be the ones that I would typically reach for if I am using a cream contour product. So I have my contour applied. Obviously, this product was made for a makeup artist in mind. If you also like experimenting with different colors, like mixing different blushes to see what works well for you, this is fantastic and really fun to use. So there is a benefit to having this if you really like playing with makeup and you like to experiment with color theory. But if you're literally trying to get out the door, this product isn't really a quick and easy product to use. So yeah, looking back, this wasn't a very good idea for me to purchase. It's something that I really don't need in my collection, given the fact that I have other products that I can reach for that do the exact same thing. In theory, it seems like a really great travel-friendly companion, but it's just not for me, unfortunately. So I do regret purchasing this. It was quite expensive. I think I remember buying this when it was on sale. I think it was during the VIB sale, so I did get 20% off of this product, but it was still quite pricey. Now that I have my concealer and my cream contour on, I'm going to be moving on to cream blush. I actually have two products here, but they're basically just one product from one brand, just in different shades. I have the Patrick Ta for Face Blush Duo in She Goes to the Gym and Out of Office. These were basically blind buys, meaning that I just purchased them online based on the swatch that they provided on the Sephora website. And then these blushes on the fair model looked really good. And so I felt confident enough to just purchase them because I do have two other blushes from Patrick Ta, which is Not Too Much and Just Enough. Obviously, when you look at She Goes to the Gym, it looks really dark, and it is. So let me just do a quick swatch. On the bottom here is the cream shade, and then on top is the powder shade. And let me see if I can like shear these out so that you get an idea of what they look like on the cheek if you blended them out. Okay, so I did my best to blend out the cream and the powder, and they're still quite saturated. So I'm not going to be using this particular color, but I am going to be using the other shade that I have here, which is Out of Office. And in the pan, it looks really cute. The cream shade I can definitely work with. It's just the powder that I have an issue with because it is so pigmented, and the powder has a lot of binder in it, which is great because then it prevents a lot of kickback and fallout, but it also means that it sticks onto your skin quite well. This isn't a blush, in my opinion, that you can shear out easily, especially if you're fair. So yeah, these are the shades. The cream shade is on the bottom, the powder shade is on the top. So for today's video, I'm going to be using the cream color because it is a little bit more appropriate to my complexion. So I'm just going to take this on my finger, and I'm just gonna dab a tiny bit onto my cheeks. And then we're just gonna go from there. If it gets crazy, I'm going to use my other brush with foundation on it to help shear it out. So yeah, I do regret getting the She Goes to the Gym shade because it's far too dark. I can use the cream shade and shear it out, but the powder is so dark that when you are using it as a fair-skinned girl, it's a very dangerous game in my opinion. I just want like a really light flush. And why not? Let's put some on my nose. All right, so this is the cream blush applied from Out of Office. If you are a fair olive girly and you are curious about trying Patrick Ta's blush duos, I would highly recommend that you try Just Enough, which is like this baby pink shade, and Not Too Much, which is a muted shade. So these shades are definitely a lot more appropriate for fair-skinned girlies. Now, I'll show you what Out of Office looks like against Just Enough. So right here we have Out of Office, and then this is Just Enough. So you can definitely see a color difference between the two. Just Enough is obviously a lot lighter in color, in saturation, and Out of Office is a little bit more muted and slightly darker. Okay, so we're gonna put Out of Office to the side, and we're gonna move on to our next product. So I'm looking a little matte because I just set my entire face with setting powder, and I've used my Huda Beauty Easy Bake Loose Setting Powder in the shade Pound Cake, because the next product that we're going to be using is a powder bronzer. It is the Westman Atelier Beauty Butter Powder Bronzer. And I wanted to try this brand out, but I didn't want to get another blush or another lipstick, and so I opted for a bronzer because the swatches online looked really good. So the shade that I purchased is Coup de Soleil, but I should have gotten a lipstick or a blush instead because, man, this powder is deceptively orange, and I will show you why. Okay, so I'm just taking a clean brush and tap it into the product and show you exactly why I don't love this product. Okay, so that's what we have up here so far, and just gonna do the top of the cheeks as well. And I'll give you a swatch comparison of the bronzers that I typically use compared to this bronzer, because I think it helps to see what they look like side by side. Just gonna add some on the tip of my nose just to balance out the complexion, and quickly over the eye as well. Okay, so this is what we have so far. And like I said, I was gonna do a swatch comparison for you. Okay, so this is the Westman Atelier Butter Bronzer that I have on my face currently. So this is what the swatch looks like. And put it up against my two other blushes that I consider my holy grail products. So the first one is the same single blusher in Cloudy Brown. So I have talked about this product quite a bit if you have been watching my videos. And I love this because it has like a greenish khaki undertone. And for fair olives, this color is a total game changer. It's like the perfect bronzy color without leaning too orange or too red. It leans on the green side, which complements fair olive tones quite well. So that's what I normally use. So just comparing this color to the Westman Atelier color, you can automatically tell that this is quite orangey. And I'm going to swatch another bronzer, which is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Smooth Blur Bronzer Powder in Golden Beach Glow. So that is the Anastasia Beverly Hills powder, the same single blusher powder in Cloudy Brown, and then Westman Atelier. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but this shade is definitely a lot more on the yellow end. This one is obviously more on the green desaturated end. And then this Westman Atelier color is like orangey red. But this is definitely a very expensive makeup purchase I regret. I believe I paid $105 Canadian for this, and I will not be making that mistake again. It is time for eyes. I don't know if you can tell, but I just did my eyebrows off camera. And the next product is the Natasha Denona I Need a Warm palette. And it hurts me to have a Natasha Denona palette on here because I'm a huge fan of her eyeshadows. Like, let me show you. I have the I Need a Nude palette, the Golden palette. I also have the My Mini Dream palette and a backup. And I also have the Mini Eye Sculpt palette. And I also want to try the Mini Bloom palette, but I'm trying to practice some self-control. And I'm featuring the I Need a Warm Natasha Denona palette because it's a palette that I don't necessarily need. And I also find copper shades a bit challenging for fair olive skin because they can pull orangey. Let's face it, copper is a metallic orange. I don't know why I purchased this. I think it's just because the Golden palette and the I Need a Nude palette were such a big hit for me. I figured why not just add a warm in there just in case if there are any shades that I need to use from this palette. Okay, so before I put anything on my eyelids, I do want to add a transition shade. I'm gonna go into the Golden palette and I'm gonna use Miko. I'm just going to lightly dust this all over the lid. I could have used the shade Mellow, but I find that it might be a bit too dark. I don't know, let's give it a whirl, shall we? Okay, so I just have a tiny bit on my brush. Let's just hope for the best. Okay, so it seems like a decent base shade. I feel like if I didn't add that lighter transition shade, then this shade Mellow might have been a little bit too much, but it seems to be working for me for now. Okay, the base color has now been applied. Let's challenge myself. And I'm gonna try to use this color, Fervor. And this is definitely a warm mid-toned brown. And I'm gonna use this to define the upper portion of my lash line. Okay, I'm gonna go back into that same color and just define the outer portion of my lower lid. And same with this eye. And now I think I want to try some of the shimmery shades, but I want to swatch them on my hand before I put them on my face. So one of the shades that I do want to try is Push. I'm gonna put that on my middle finger, and maybe Snug. So up here is Push, and down here is Snug. Push has definitely more of a chunkier, for lack of a better word, glitter shimmer, like a stronger shimmer. And then this Snug shade is a little bit more on the metallic end. So I think I'm gonna use the more sparkly one, which is Push. I'm not gonna use my finger for this shimmer shade because I want to work with this very conservatively. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. I also think using that bronzer from Westman Atelier, the one that was like a little bit too orangey, helps to complement this eyeshadow palette. I think this color palette would be really appropriate for the fall that's coming up. Okay, so that's the shimmer applied onto both eyes. So this shade Phenomena has a green reflect. I don't know if the camera is picking it up, but I will do a hand swatch. So I just applied Phenomena on the top of my hand here, but it definitely has a green shift to it. Well, more like a green to red shift with a copper base. I think I want to put this closer to my lashes. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm noticing that I'm picking up more on the red shift, more so than the green. I'm pretty sure if I used my finger to apply this shade that I would get a stronger green shift. Okay, so that is that shade Phenomena applied. And then I think I'm gonna do one more color, but I do wanna use a darker color. I'm torn between this shade, or this shade. I feel like this shade is safe for me to use, so I don't want to use that. I want to challenge myself a little bit. So I think I will use the one on the corner here, and I'm gonna use this as like a very soft eyeliner. Okay, so that's one eye done. And then I'm just gonna do the other eye here quickly. Okay, I think that's good enough for now. And I think I can use one more shade, which is a lighter shade for the inner portion of my eyes. So let's do a different color. Okay, so I'm sticking my finger in Elm and Fancy. Elm is this goldeny shade, and then Fancy is more of a neutral champagne-y shade. And I'll swatch them on the back of my hand for you. So bottom is Elm, and then the top one right here is Fancy. I think I'm gonna go ahead and use the top shade, which is Fancy. Okay, and I'm not gonna go too far down in the inner corner because there is a highlight powder that I am featuring in this video. So I'm just gonna stop just shy of that space. And then I'm going to apply this color just on the brow bone. This is the eyeshadow look. I think I like it. I definitely have to play with this color palette a little bit more, but I am satisfied with the look that I've done today. We're gonna pull that Patrick Top blush out again, out of Office, and I'm gonna try to attempt to use the powder. I think I can use just a tiny bit more blush, and I'm gonna be really conservative with the powder because I have, again, used this before, and the color is quite dark. Okay, so that's what we have so far. I'm gonna stop there. So now we're just doing this side. Okay, I just tapped off the excess off of my brush, and now I'm just gonna go in circular motions to help blend it out. But again, this is just me using like the tiniest amount of powder, and it's already looking kind of saturated. Okay, do you see that? I tried to be light-handed. If you have done anything like what I have done right now and you want to tone down your blush, I'm just using a powder foundation on a big fluffy brush, and I'm going to try to tone this down. And then once I've muted that color a little bit, I'm gonna go back in with my blush brush and see if I can finesse that color back in. Now that our eyes are done and I've sort of fixed up my complexion, we are now gonna move on to highlighter, but before that, I am gonna finish up the rest of my makeup, which is just mascara. Moving on to our next product, it is highlighter, and I have the Nars Face and Body Highlighter in Skyrocket. The swatches online looked really promising. The highlighter had a bit of a pinky, almost lilac reflect, and it was so unique. And I really wanted to give it a try and see if it was a good addition to my collection. Now, the online swatches looked pretty reflective, but in person, the swatch is pretty underwhelming. I don't know if the camera is picking up on it, but it is giving off a pinky glow. So I have a fresh brush. This is the e.l.f. highlighter brush, and I'm gonna go in to it and try to pick up as much as I can. And without tapping anything off, that's how much the brush has picked up. So I'm going to apply this at the top here. You know, the last time I wore this, it didn't give off a very strong reflect, but now that I'm trying it out again, the reflect is quite strong. I think it looks pretty good. I'm a little surprised. Maybe this is one of those products that I judged too quickly. Okay, so I'm just gonna add some on the tip of my nose. And obviously this highlighter color doesn't go with the copper eyes, but we're just gonna ignore that. I'm gonna grab a small brush and use this highlighter on the inner corner of my eye. And the other eye. Wow, I think this highlighter is really great for the winter time because it kind of gives you like cold girl vibes. I didn't think I was gonna get this strong of a reflect. Last time I used it, it was really underwhelming. But now I'm having to dust some of it away. But holy crap, this is nice. I'm actually kind of glad that I bought it. I don't regret purchasing this, but I do regret not trying this again sooner. We are down to our last product, and this is probably my least appealing product. It is the Makeup Forever Super Boost Moisturizing Plumping Effect Lip Color in the shade Festival Lilac. And I did purchase this in person at Sephora. So yeah, this color looked really intriguing in person, so I had to give it a try. So let's put it on. All right, so this is the lip gloss applied, and it's a bit disappointing in my opinion because I thought the base jelly color would be a little bit stronger. I was hoping for more of a juicy purpley pink kind of tint, but it's just clear, unfortunately. And the blue glitter is quite strong, and I don't love the fact that the blue glitter emphasizes the yellow tones in my teeth. Also, another big thing about this lip gloss is that it tastes super perfumey. Like, it has a lot of earthy notes like patchouli or sandalwood, and it's not for me. I'm more of a gourmand girly. I like mint, vanilla, or anything on the like bakery scent end. Even a fruit flavor would be amazing, but I just don't love the direction that they went with in terms of flavoring. Very perfumey, so if you're even the slightest bit scent adverse, this is not the product for you. Avoid it at all costs. It's just basically like all you taste. Formula is great though, very moisturizing, really cushiony, but man, the scent is so strong. I just can't see myself wearing this, and it's gross. So I'm gonna wipe that off because I don't want to be tasting it all day. And I'm gonna apply the e.l.f. Thirst Burst Plump Tide Lip Treatment instead because my lips are pretty dry. And I think the color of this lip gloss is just a little bit more appealing for the overall look. I've made it pretty obvious that this lip gloss from Makeup Forever is a regretful purchase of mine. This is definitely a confirmed regret purchase. All right, so we made it to the end of the video. This is my full face of makeup with products that I regret buying. So there you have it. Thanks for sticking around. I really appreciate it, and I hope that this was helpful in some way. In the comments down below, let me know what your most recent regretful purchase was. I'm dying to know, and maybe there might be some products that I should watch out for. If you want more makeup related content with fair olive skin in mind, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.